death, and I will fear no evil, really comes as a prayer of walking between your brain. When we have an emotion, hormones, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, cortisol, everything begins being dumped out of our brain into this space where we identify ourselves. We know in science we're only born with two fears. We're born with a fear of falling and a fear of loud noises. And everything else is a learned fear. But when did we learn that fear? We learned that fear mostly before the age of 5, before the age of reason. And the age of reason came in 6 to 9 for most of us. We have a whole track of learned behavior triggers, early emotional triggers that are not even connected to our rational mind. So fear would kick in. I would sense him liking someone, or I'd sense there was, he wasn't sharing a truth of some sort, and literally I hadn't made it safe for him to share himself completely, because every time I felt threatened, I would fight, or there was flight, and I usually chose flight, and I was pregnant with his baby. And if he responded or said something that really, truly, he was constantly afraid that I would flee. And I'd kind of created that myself by saying, I'm gonna leave because there was an automatic place in my mind that was formed. I didn't have a calm area of my brain. Every time I tried to calm down, I fell asleep. That meditation was that I could not automatically calm my brain down. And we know this now in child development, that we have to teach children to calm themselves down. And this is something that we did with our kids. We taught them, we each came up with our own version of how to calm ourselves down. What was your calm? Yours was like this.
Something like that,
yeah. Yeah, so Tyler, you want to come up and share your calm? You remember my calm? Okay. So my calm was like this. So I had to teach myself how to be calm. And I had to teach myself with my kids how for them to be calm. How many people know how to calm themselves and have put together a formula for themselves to allow themselves to go into a space that goes calm, calm? Oh, good, good. That's so beautiful. The fear areas of the brain have a lot of blood flow. They have them based on, and each of our receptors, each of our cells are geared. So we have tons of receptors, and receptors are basically like keyholes. And our proteins in our body, neurotransmitters, engage with those keyholes and open and unlock things. And so every time I felt threatened in the least bit, I was walking in the valley of death. And I had not trained myself to not fear evil. Automatically, I went into every time, and this is for anyone that grew up in an environment that was unstable before the age of 5, a lot of people before the age of 7, an emotional bond. Anytime you're making an emotional bond, you equate that with absolute pain and absolute fear and flooding. So every time I wanted to get closer to Greg, I was the closer that I wanted to be, the bigger the flood would come in, the bigger the responses within my body. Every time he would get a little bit closer. And yet, we dedicated tonight's class to Greg's mom and dad, really, for being that stable place in his environment. So even though I was having all of these panic, I am in the valley of death, literally felt like I was dying at some level, his family was very, very stable during those years. And he could help me ride out the storms. We didn't know what was happening at the time that he was helping me ride out these storms, but he would say, "You're forgiven before you do anything. You're forgiven before you do anything." And he grew his expandedness in the area of when we started to speak each other's triggers. We started to look for and learn each other's triggers. What caused me to go into this fear, into this shadow, into this space? And I very clearly communicated with him. It's so funny because we're going to talk all about like the communication styles, the words, the scripts, what to tell yourself in order to bring an area, more blood flow to the area of calm, and how, oh, this is a really important point. You don't even remember the memory, but there's a memory-based location around love, around certain triggers, around certain foods even, things that were in your environment during that time that cause your limbic system. And your limbic system regulates your sleep, waking, regulates responses to other people. More of your brain becomes available when you're calm in your limbic system. Less of your brain becomes available if you've got any part of a trigger that's in the environment. So 400 billion bits of information coming at you, only you can experience 2,000 of them in a second. In a fight or flight response, your eyes become pinpointed and you're not even able to take any more of that in. They get so laser focused on movement and fight. Your body tenses up. Your brain no longer has part of it being available to reason or logically communicate with someone.